Season passes have become a standard in today's world of gaming and are a very relevant business model to publishers now. So much that it's starting to negatively affect the experience of games, especially long-term speaking. Paid DLC is starting to become a big problem. Essentially, paid DLC splits the player base up and starts to become a problem in the long run for various reasons. Player base divide. Firstly, unless the game is still extremely popular, which cannot be said for all games, it will make finding the game with other players more difficult. Paid DLC means that you have a smaller pool of players to play with. Players who bought the DLC will only match up with players who have also bought the DLC. Players who didn't buy the DLC will pair up with players who also didn't buy the DLC. Having a player base divide on any game that has a dwindling player numbers is of course not good, but then secondly we have an equally as annoying problem. Some games may attempt to pair you with players who did not buy the DLC, and some games give you that freedom to, for example, Battlefield has a match browser. This means that later down the life cycle of the game, you won't be able to play the DLC maps you paid for. Matches or lobbies with the paid DLC in them become deserted, almost forcing you to go back to the base game maps, rendering the DLC content to be a waste of money. Skill gap change. Sometimes winning a really close game by outclassing your opponent, causing you to narrowly win, is a real buzz. Other times, being able to chill out and cause havoc on people that are new to the game or lower in skill than you is fun. Then other times, when you're up against the next upcoming esports warrior athletes, it's not fun at all. I don't think anyone likes losing, but when you have absolute no chance, it really isn't enjoyable. Playing DLC content will more likely than not pair you against a good player. Casual players are much less likely to buy DLC or spend any more money beyond the base game sale. Dedicated and more hardcore players will be more likely to buy the DLC. As a result of this means that you will constantly be playing good players for buying the DLC. Many players see this as a punishment for buying the DLC. I remember knowing people that actually used to delete the DLC off their hard drives back when you can easily do that on the Xbox 360. On games like Battlefield, people eventually flock back to the vanilla base game content. This is another cause of DLC lobbies becoming deserted. Left out content. How many times have games now had content stripped from the base game to only be sold later as DLC? It's starting to become a problem in gaming, where we are offered a stingy amount of content on the base game. The worst thing is when you feel underwhelmed with the amount of content in a game after just dropping $60 or £40. But then constant marketing is being waved in your face to then spend another $50 on a season pass when you've just bought the game. It really does leave a sour taste. It's great that now developers are finally starting to see that paid DLC is a problem. However, there's still many game companies that are not doing this, and I really do believe that it's an outdated model, and I think a lot of people are catching on too, and I really hope that developers and publishers start seeing another alternative to revenue from multiplayer, because paid DLC is just splitting the player base up and negatively affecting the experience of a multiplayer game in the long run. A realistic alternative for me would be even microtransactions to compensate for it, or something that I think would be pretty fair in my opinion would be have the DLC, paid DLC for the first 3 to 4 months and then release it for free when the player numbers start declining. We've seen it with Battlefield in the past, and I think we should start seeing that. I think that if you really are a dedicated player, then have it. You get maybe 1 or 2 months early access. If you really want those new maps, you're going to buy them if you're a dedicated player, and that means the company still makes money from that. But then later down the line, Release it for free, and it also entices players to come back to your game that may have stopped playing. If they know that there's new content, additional content they don't have to pay for, they can just come back and play it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next video.